What's up, gardeners? It's Ricky Jones Jr. coming to you live from Tampa, Florida. We are going to be talking about what you need to know if you want to set up your front yard garden. Let's go! What's up, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Don't Keep Up With the Joneses. 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 All right, great people. I hope you all are having a fabulous day, whichever day this video finds you. And like I said, hey, we are going to be talking about gardening now. As you may see in the background, I have a combination of raised beds, I have grow bags, and I also have 5-gallon buckets that I grow in initially. I don't really have anything in the ground. However, we're going to talk about different things that you need to know if these are the ways that you are looking to grow. As you all see here, I have a keyhole raised bed scenario with entry from back there all the way up here, which I love this whole setup. It's very minimum in space, however impactful in what you are able to do as far as growing and different things like that. Now, what you do need to do is make sure that your soil is that in which it's like a raised bed soil or a loose soil and things like that. Nothing too heavy as far as like wood chips and things like that. You don't want too many of those. Some are fine because they will compost in the grand scheme of things. However, you know, this is what you want. Now, what you do need to consider is that your watering will have to be, you know, it's gonna have to be pretty regular as far as like the levels in which you'll have to water. This is probably the least as far as amount that you have to water, and then your like 5-gallon buckets are gonna be the most that you're gonna have to water. But we'll talk about all those different reasons why and so forth and so on. So raised beds is a cool way and method to grow. Now, even in these raised beds, which are your traditional like long raised beds, I think it's like 12 foot by 1, 2, 3, so like 3.5 feet. But nonetheless, I have a PVC watering system that is watering these two bad boys, which I did a video on how to set those up if you want to check those out. But I'm able to just from a water hose spigot water both of these bad boys, which I do on average from 1 to 2 times a week. Depends on if it does rain throughout the week or if it doesn't. It lets me know the frequency in which I should water. Also too, with your raised beds, you will have to use your different fertilizers and things to amend the soil from various growing seasons, whether it is spring that you're growing or fall and spring that you're growing. I would just recommend to fertilize in between or once a year, depending on how often that you do get to grow in your raised beds in your area, in your zone, right? Every zone is unique, every zone is different, so you know, think about those things. Now, the cool things I will say about raised beds is that I don't know if you can see it here because of the hay. However, over here you may be able to see the fact that I have like the lines. Boom, there's the square foot gardening lines, which allow for me to break up the raised bed in square foot increments, and upon those square foot increments I have the ability to plant certain things, certain amount of things within those square foot plots or those square foot areas within the garden itself, which helps to keep things nice and neat, organized and functional, right? Because I know how many things can grow within a specific square foot as opposed to growing like along rows and things like that, where things can get bunchy, things can get lost in the sauce. And also when I am writing in my journal, I know what's what depending on the area of the plot. Kind of like Battleship, you know how you're like boom, then boom, then boom, boom. All right, I did all booms, but nonetheless, it's like the Battleship mentality. But nonetheless, I do love raised beds. It was the start in which I did grow. It is something that is fairly easy to do. You can build raised beds out of various things such as wood, such as metal, and probably the list goes on. You can do hay, you can do cinder blocks, I've seen as well. Probably some other things. Let people know in the comment section what are some other ways you can grow raised beds. Now, these are cool. Now, let's talk about 5-gallon buckets. I'm gonna say my favorite for last, which is grow bags. I don't know if you knew that, but nonetheless, we're gonna talk about these 5-gallon buckets, which I've grown numerous things in 5-gallon buckets, from potatoes to root vegetables to kale, collards. I've grown beans. I've grown very many things in my 5-gallon buckets. The thing about the 5-gallon buckets is because it is made out of plastic, right? So even in this one, that is my Thai basil, and I have some jalapeno peppers, and this one I have some rosemary by itself. Nonetheless, what I do want to say about 5-gallon buckets. I didn't even have a whole 5-gallon bucket section. Let me just walk over here and talk as I walk. But nonetheless, with 5-gallon buckets, you do have to water more because it's just a flow. It's a flow. It's my little 5-gallon bucket section over here. I have little holders and things that I've built. I've done videos for them if that's your way of growing. But nonetheless, with the 5-gallon buckets, you do have to make sure you're up on your watering. You may have to water for like 3 times, like for sure. Minimum of 2 times, for sure. 3 is probably going to be ideal times. Man, I'm even looking at this tomato plant that's growing outside of the whole apparatus. But nonetheless, at least 3 times, largely because when you water, the water is just going to flow through. Water's going to flow through, water's going to go through, and it's going to go out the bottom. That's exactly how you want it to do, but nonetheless, that's just what it's gonna do, which means water does not stay within those buckets, okay? And so your plants can dry out faster, your vegetables can die because of that. So you do want to make sure that you do fertilize before the soil, before you put the plant in. But then even with the watering scenario, I'm very heavy on the watering, obviously, because water is necessary, okay? That's the main reason why. Now, I will say, if I can go back, raised beds are cool. You just want to make sure you position them properly when you put them down, which we'll talk about that another time. But nonetheless, with the 5-gallon buckets, you do have the flexibility of moving them as necessary to whatever may be going on with the sun or the cold and things like that. All right. Boom. Watering, have to do it. Fertilizing, have to do it. And I mean, it's cool. Like, as you see, I have white buckets, I have the orange buckets, I have the blue buckets. Now, I would recommend that you get the white buckets, okay? Largely because, one, they're food grade. That was something I came into the knowledge of after I bought a bunch of buckets. But then beyond that, it is nice and clean. Point blank period. It's nice and clean. I think there are some black food grade ones. If you want to go for that, cool. Just know that the sun will heat those more as opposed to the white ones where the light's just going to do what it does, which is not as much as it will do with the black ones. All right, but nonetheless, boom. You have the flexibility. Now, I did do some like wicking systems with my 5-gallon buckets where I had one stacked in the other and different things like that. Hey, it was fun. It was fun. I will say it's fun. Now, the downside to 5-gallon buckets, there's downsides to them all. They're not all 100% great, but one of the downsides to 5-gallon buckets is you can have like a root bounding problem where your roots just circle and circle and circle and circle and circle, in which it could choke out the plant itself because it's not able to get the nutrients, the waters, and the things like that to help the plant to grow, because as the roots grow, it's just going to circle, as opposed to the other growing way, which is grow bags, which doesn't do anything like that. But I will say that is something that can take place. So the life of the plant may be determined by it being in a 5-gallon bucket. Now, even with this rosemary, it looks so nice, it looks so luscious and all those different things like that. However, it will have a lifespan, because as this grows, as long as this lives, so are the roots growing and things like that. So as it's grown within this 5-gallon bucket, the roots will continue to grow, the roots continue to spiral and spin, and it will eventually choke itself out to the point of killing itself, right? So that is something that happens within a 5-gallon bucket growing situation. So just think about those things. You can do root vegetables like your beets and your carrots and different things like that, where the roots are going to grow, the plant is going to develop, and then you can pick it up and then you can, you know, retrieve it. Or your annuals. You could even plant annuals in these bad boys, knowing that they're going to come up one year and they'll be gone and you'll be good to go. You're not looking for something to grow and grow and grow and grow, because as it grows and grows, it may choke and choke and choke and choke itself out within those 5-gallon buckets, okay? So that's that scenario. Now, let's talk about grow bags, if that is the way that you want to grow. All right, great people. So now we have the grow bags, which I would pick a heavy one to pick up. But now we have the grow bags, which I also love and have been honestly growing more in here lately, as well as encouraging others, especially first-time gardeners, to grow in grow bags as opposed to the other 2 methods that I've grown in initially, largely because you're able to, one, you know your area in which you can grow in because of the space that it already limits, right? So there's a given circle that you can grow in, and usually, well, this one is a 7-gallon grow bag, which gives you about 10 inches of 10 inches diameter of growing space that allows for you to grow whatever it is that you want to grow. Now, that is a thing. Now, outside of that, let's talk about watering. Watering, you do want to do 2 to 3 times. Treat it like a 5-gallon bucket. The great thing about your grow bags is that the water is going to flow through and things like that. But then outside of that, it will, you know, have a nice little moisture situation. The grow bag itself will get moist as well, keeping the soil moist, as opposed to the 5-gallon bucket is just gonna go right through. The grow bag will get wet, will contain a little bit of water. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be like a reservoir, but there will be wetness within the grow bag as you do water the grow bag itself. Now, the difference, major difference between a 5-gallon bucket and a grow bag is that the roots growing within a grow bag will not just spiral. The roots within a grow bag will hit the end of the grow bags, because, you know, roots do what they do, but when they hit the end of the grow bag, they will prune themselves off, okay? They'll hit the end, maybe try to grow through, but as it hits the air, touches the air, it'll prune itself off, which is great. It'll help keep from it choking itself out and things like that. But more than anything, it will keep your roots nice, strong, and healthy, okay? And so it also allows ventilation through the grow bags, right? Air is able to go in and out and things like that, as opposed to your 5-gallon bucket situation where it is plastic, which does stop the airflow and things like that. But then also with your grow bags, it will help to keep things that needs to be warm, and things that needs to be cold, because I mean, it has its own installation system with the ability to breathe, okay? So grow bags are awesome. They're easy to move, even though I picked up one of the more heavier ones, but they have straps on the sides that allows for you to lift and shift, or lift and move wherever it is necessary for you to have for them to grow, be it on a patio, be it in a yard, be it on concrete. I mean, you can grow on any type of surface, okay? Now, if you do grow inside, you do want to make sure that you have something that can catch the water, because it does just flow. Water doesn't just sit within the bag itself. Water flows out through the bottom. But nonetheless, grow bags are the way. I don't know, I'm not gonna say the way of the future, but the way in which I would recommend to start to grow and to do things in the garden. Now, if you have any other questions as you are planning out your 2022 garden, be it the front yard, the backyard, your patio, your front deck, any area that you are growing in, please let us know in the comment sections below, or you can email me, you can DM me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook, I'm on Twitter as well. Garden with me _JR is where you can find me. But nonetheless, we are here for you, your gardening needs, and, you know, helping you start to grow your own healthy food, organic food. It's so much fun. It's so much easier than you think it is, and we're here to help you do so. So with that being said, you can go ahead and subscribe if you made it this far. Thank you. Smash that thumbs up button, and yeah, I'll see you on the next gardening video. Let's do it, y'all. Peace. Happy gardening, happy living, and remember, you can always garden with me.